Whoa, 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 whoa. It is, what is it, Tuesday today? It's Tuesday today. Welcome to another episode of the stream. And I have to say, I don't know what's going on with the weather. It is 35 degrees Celsius out today here. So I'm happy to be safely ensconced indoors with all the shades down and the air conditioning on, thank goodness. And, you know, we need to be within the livable realm to be able to Conlang, or else we start to overheat and make very dubious decisions. So welcome everyone, and it's good to see you, Deep Solar. Hello, thanks for joining us. Let's see what's going on today. Today is going to be a return to the Qal family, and we are going to look at the relationship between Justamija on the one hand and Lenethailef on the other. And we worked a little on the timeline and some rough geography, very sketchy so far, but we at least know when Lenethailef and Justamija were spoken with respect to each other. And now we can start to work on kind of fun interactions between the two. And one idea that came up last week is that we could have Justamija act as a sort of literary language that's used, sort of a high prestige literary language that's used by the speakers of Lenethailef. And so we will see lots of borrowings from Justamija into Lenethailef, especially for the kinds of concepts that one would write about. And so this is the plan that we're going to start off with. So we're going to work out the details of the relationship between these two languages, not the genetic relationship, but the social relationship. And we're going to, as always, as we do this, we're going to be adding more vocabulary, more grammar, outlining in more detail what's going on. So that's the gist of the plan for the first half. And then in the second half, I want to work on some aspects of Lenethailef that have been kind of, annoying me. I don't know. I have, for Lenethailef is supposed to be the cellar door language. And there are some things that I'm not extremely enamored with. So I think there are some tweaks that have to be made. But welcome everyone who just came in. Thank you so much. I have one more thing to say. It's not related to Conlangs. But if you are the kind of person who is tempted to study Old English, I'm going to be running an Old English course. #Old English Summer. We are making it happen. And it's going to be starting in early July, and it's going to be run for 8 weeks. And basically the gist of that course is that we're going to be progressing sort of, by the way, it's called Baby Steps to Beowulf. I'm kind of proud of that title. And we'll be spending a lot of time with Old English texts and gradually over 8 weeks, getting to the point where at the end you can sort of go off on your own and read Old English texts with a dictionary in one hand and probably a little grammar reference sheet in the other. So that's the gist of that. So if you're interested in that, there is a link, I believe, in the description. But without further ado, we're here to Conlang, so I'm going to say hello to the future viewers on YouTube, and then we'll get started. Okay, where are we? Hi, YouTube. Goodness gracious. Welcome. It's another fun day to work on Conlangs. We're going to be working on the relationship today between the Justamija language and the Lenethailef language, but we're not going to be working on the genetic relationship between the two. After all, they are more or less sister languages. But we're going to be working on the sociolinguistic relationship between the two. We're going to make it so that Lenethailef is more of a spoken language and Justamija is more of a literary or written language, at least at some point in the two languages' history. And so this is going to shape what Lenethailef looks like, with perhaps loan words coming in from Justamija. And so that's the gist, that's the plan. I think we are going to have to scoot me over to the corner because I'm the least interesting thing that we're going to see today. So over into the corner we go. And what are we looking at? We are looking at the rough timeline that we worked out last week on the left. And I have the venerable grammar, comparative grammar of the Qal languages by Cornelius Q. Spratt, our fictional linguist. We are going to be playing a little bit more in this document today because we've worked out a lot since the last time last time we opened this file. All right. Oh, Max, that's so kind of you to say. I have some ideas. I would like to do some recordings of especially of Old English in audiobook form. I don't know. That could happen in the future. Galactic Sand, yeah, it could be similar to the relationship between Hebrew and Aramaic. That's another good example. And we could get some doublet words, as Ship points out. Doublets are words where you get where there's one sort of etymological form that enters the language twice, so to speak. So either in some cases it's one is inherited and another is borrowed. So an example of this would be what would be a good example of this in English? Never think at the blackboard. I'm thinking of something like people and popular. You know, they're different parts of speech, but one comes from French and one comes from Latin directly. And so we have these two, or here's another good one that I love: fence and defense. So the etymology of fence is actually a clipped form of defense. They come from the same etymological source, but borrowed twice. Have and capture, yeah, that's a more distant doublet. Cool. Okay, so this is the sandbox we're going to be playing in today. So, all right, let's orient ourselves. I'm going to first go through this document, which is very, very sparse right now, and correct anything that's no longer accurate. So we're calling it a comparative grammar of the Qal languages with special attention paid to the varieties spoken in the Justamija region. I'd like now this document not to be a grammar particularly of Justamija. I'd like it to be a kind of a comparative grammar of Lenethailef and Justamija. So with special attention woken to the Lenethailef and Justamija varieties. Oops. Don't mess up my formatting, please. By Cornelius Q. Spratt, that has to stay. We can look. Okay, so we haven't made huge decisions about endonyms and exonyms. In terms of demography, talk about the how widespread the family is, containing at least 4 widely spoken, instead of languages, we'll say branches. because we don't want to tie our hands. We could have more. The two languages of interest to us are Justamija, which, and if this is going to be a classical language at this point, we may have it be more like this, which was spoken in the Fragrant Coast region. And let's see, when abouts are we going to say that this grammar was written? I think we could probably set it at around 500 years before the present. Before Lenethailef is under the influence of Kranslor, and we get this formation of a Creole. So in this kind of early Lenethailef period. So why don't we say, so at this point, Justamija has not been spoken as such for 200 years. We'll have to figure out what happened there. Maybe it diverged into some descendant languages, who knows? But we could say, which was spoken in the Fragrant Coast region until 200 years ago. Our Justamija, which is spoken in the Fragrant Coast region until 200 years ago, and which survives as a literary language. Justamija is a long sentence. Let's break it up with a 1 and a 2. And 2. Lenethailef. The most widely spoken language in the blah 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 region. Other related languages, other languages related to these two can be found from somewhere to somewhere. Who knows what these things are? So these are our little placeholders. Should put them all as the same so that I can just Control F and find what I haven't, what I have to change. And all right, okay. As for the relationship between the Qal languages and other families, I'm going to boost the font size here. I think we're being a bit stingy with the, yeah, there we go. As for the relationship between the Qal languages and other families, many proposals have been advanced, but none has yet been proven. That sounds right to me. We probably have some things that we could say about the sociolinguistic situation, but let's just make sure we haven't changed anything else yet. The pronoun system, blah, blah, blah. All right, that's fine. All of these things are fine. Justamija is an SOV language. Well, we can talk about Lenethailef, by contrast, is predominantly an SVO language. This is one of the big differences between the two. Great. And then we could put in an example here, which we'll do later. Great. Nothing else of interest. Okay, so we've cleaned that up now. That's good. So let's write down the date of publication so that we remember what phase of the language we are describing. So 500 before present. We'll come in, we'll have to do some world building to come up with a dating system that makes sense in the context of the world. But for now, just so that we have something, we can put that there. Okay. Now let's look a little bit at the one lone morpheme that we came up with last week into Lenethailef. So we have in our poem this word blessing, and it's lunukech. So that's in the accusative, but the word would be lunuk or lunuk. I'm not sure. I have to remember what decisions we made about stress in Lenethailef. Lunuk, blessing. This uk is actually a straight borrowing from the, where is it? Justamija grammar. From the substantive suffix in Lenethailef, which is a uvular stop. So we get enclose, antuk, or antuk. And so that gets borrowed into Lenethailef as this k suffix. So we have literally the blessing. We have this nominalization suffix for kind of high register words, which will be this k suffix in Lenethailef. So let's see, did we use it anywhere else? Oh, yes. Susuke, feeling. So let's document this. We will have to, let's see, where can we document this? Go down to, is there some sort of a morphological section? It's been a long time since I've looked at this document. Apologies for the scrolling. Here, I'll make it so that you don't get seasick while I scroll this. Grammatical categories, morphological. Okay, so let's put in a new heading, derivational morphology. And let's go back. There we go. Derivational morphology, we can say Lenethailef has inherited has borrowed the Justamija suffix q as k how do I construct this sentence? Lenethailef has borrowed the Justamija substantive suffix q as k, which is used productively as a nominalization suffix on verbs. Cool. All right. E.g., what did we have? We had something. We had bless, right? Lunu. What was my typographical convention here? Help me out. Okay, so in quotes, the meaning. Right, okay, so to bless, and then we can, come on, Google Sheets, help me out with like one of those cool auto arrows. All right, for now. Great. All right, so making decisions, having a good time, cracking wise. It's all here. Okay. What's next? What's next indeed? So one thing that I think we could do, let's see if we can get this side by side. We have a worksheet here, I believe. Does it have? I'm looking for some Lenethailef sentences. These are, okay, well, we have our poem. That's good enough. Best poem ever written. Here. And then let's take Justamija and bring that up. So texts. So we have our nice story about the swan. Let's bring this up to 14 or 18 maybe. Yes, excellent. Okay. So we have we have this very strong tendency towards, so Justamija is a very strongly OV language, and Lenethailef is a VO language. So the verb will precede the object in Lenethailef, not so in Justamija. So Justamija is on the right here. Let's see if we can find a transitive sentence. Not a lot. Eats the weeds. Sasachna. Looks like we've left something undone here. That's unlike us / me. Or maybe it's exactly like me. Let's find, give me a transitive sentence. Here's one. Drowned himself. So, lak wawansim. So, lak is the reflexive pronoun. Wawansim, drowned. So, we have this OV structure. And in Lenethailef, we have a VO structure. So, mith, you, anaglathus, cross, if cross, tamanech, the river. So SVO. What I'm thinking is that in more Justamija influenced versions of Lenethailef, we might see more of that OV structure coming up. So that's one thing that we could investigate. Hey, it's another version of me on this spreadsheet. Hello, other Colin. It's always scary when you see you're in a Google Doc, it's late at night and you're typing away, you're hard at work, maybe you're working on a dictionary, you're working on a grammar. And we all get into this situation. We're scrolling down and then we see, what's this? Someone else is in the Google Doc. Who is it? I mean, inevitably it's yourself in a different tab, but there's that sort of chill that you get immediately seeing like who's watching me. Ugh. Pretty scary stuff, guys. All right. Timflow, it is SOV. SOV. Yes. Yeah, I've never actually done an OVS language. Maybe one day I will. They're comparatively rare in Earth, whatever version in the multiverse, whatever Earth we're on, it's comparatively rare in that in our Earth. But who knows? Maybe in different realities there are tons of OVS languages. Right. Okay. So what's our next strategy? Let's make some Lenethailef that's more Lenethailef-y and some Lenethailef that's more Justamija-y. So not poetry. Here I am. There. All right, get out of there. So some stuff that's not poetry, so we don't have the excuse that we're fitting a poetic line to explain our messing around with structure. So let's say, let's have, I don't know, maybe like a little proverb. Something like, do not watch chickens eat, or something like that. So what I'm thinking is we could have, okay, proverb, do not watch chickens eat. Classic wisdom coming at you from the ancients. Let's go back to Qal and let's go to our lexicon and let's see what we have. So, do we have a word for chicken? Yes. But we don't know what it is in Justamija yet. Interesting. Okay, well, so furach is the word in I can change this to Lenethailef now. Right, so back to chicken. Voerig. And so that's going to be in there. So, right. Okay, over here. Voerig. How are we going to express this negative imperative? Have we done that yet? I don't think we have. What we've done before is... Oh, no, wait. Let's look at the grammar. Do we have an inflective form? We have imperative, which ends in fa. Do we have a negative imperative? We inflect for negative, we inflect for imperative, so I think we'll need an auxiliary verb. We'll need an auxiliary verb for this. So maybe we could do something like want to not watch. So we have this verb want, I believe, in the lexicon. Want. Wenato. So let's see what happens to wenato in Lenethailef. Back to lexergy. Yenth. Interesting. That's kind of cool. And I think we have diphthong rounding harmony, so this would be... How come that's not working there? Oh, I'll have to look into that later. So this would be something like yenth. So let's put that into Lenethailef. Yenth. This spreadsheet's a mess right now. I acknowledge it. I think that's the most important thing, to just be honest with yourself about these kinds of things. But okay, yenth is our word. Let's inflect it for the imperative. The imperative is fa. So back to lexergy, wenato, wenato fa. And then we get Lenethailef. Okay. So Lenethailef. So this means want, as a command, want to do something. And how do we negate? How do we negate in this language? Goodness gracious. We have this new negative suffix. So what we could do is we could allow... Okay, now I've put myself into a bit of a corner. Moontruther is correct in saying that this should be written with the umlaut a. Lenethailef. Okay. And Moontruther, we do have a bunch of proverbs for the Sakrat languages, but at this point, at this point in the history, we haven't actually had contact between Qal speakers and Sakrat speakers yet. So I'm going to allow those proverbs to remain within the Sakratosphere for now. Maybe that's a very silly justification, but it's also a good excuse to make up a new proverb. So do not watch chickens eat. Maybe there's some sort of a religious prohibition. Echoed words, what is happening? We are working out some interesting details about the relationship between two of the languages that we've created or that we've been developing. Justamija and Lenethailef, and they are sister languages. They're related, but they also have this relationship where Justamija is the literary language and Lenethailef is more of the spoken language. So let's let's talk about this corner that I've painted myself into. So the verbs in protocol take endings, and they take endings where you are either negative or imperative or blah, 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 blah. But we need a negative imperative. So how are we going to do this? I was thinking we could have a periphrastic construction, a periphrastic using more than one word to express the meaning. So I was thinking we could say, do not want to watch chickens eat. You know, this negative imperative coming from do not want is a pretty common grammaticalization pathway. You know, everywhere from Mandarin to Latin have this pathway. But then if that's the case, I'd have to nominalize watch. So because we still can't do a negative imperative of want. So I would have to say want to not watch, right? But then I can't say want to not watch, because that would mean I would have to nominalize that second verb watch. And nominalization, the substantive suffix, is mutually exclusive, or is in contrastive distribution with, to use the fancy term, is mutually exclusive with the negative. So we're in a tough space. I'm just going to hydrate briefly. This is for people who are serious about hydration, which everyone should be. So what we could do, is make an exception for this one verb, to want. So we could have a form that's like wunatonu, meaning not to want, and that's the only one that is allowed to stack the negative and the imperative. Let's see what that would look like. So wenato fa, wenato nu fa. And this we would get something like yindonaf. That's not terrible. That's not terrible. Yindonaf. And if this is true, we could just have a negative imperative for everyone. What the heck is going on here? Colin pressed only the keys challenge. Whoa. I just got an amazing idea from the chat. Hey, Englishwa, welcome. W. Watson, credit where credit is due. Let's have a suppletive negative want. So something like shun, hate. Yes, this is a way out of our quandary. Hi, Gal. Welcome. And Timflo, what kind of language is it? It's mildly agglutinative, I would say. It's nothing too special, but nothing too far down that path. But we have some decent affixation. Okay, so let's look at coming up with a suppletive negative want. So where is our lexicon? So first of all, do we have a verb hate? Do we have a verb avoid? Do we have a shun? No, we do not. Okay, so what we can do is we can use one of our existing roots that we haven't claimed yet, and let's use something like muwo. So this is hate, but it's also negative imperative. So given this, muwo fa. Moof. Nice and concise. All right, so then we have our negative imperative, and then that will turn the verb to watch into a nominalized form. So let's take a look and see what we have for watch. Watch, look, see. So we have osasa, to see or to know. I believe we also have something like wana quo. Ah, yes, look. There we go. So wana quo. Put that together. Wanch. Cool. That sounds cool. And if we nominalize it, we get what? Go back to the grammar. Our substantive form is haqwa. So wana quo haqwa. One rock. Okay. So then we have something like one rock move, one rock voerig. Now, okay, so we have something going on here. So let's gloss this. So this is negative imperative. This is what or look. Nominalization. And I can just make this a bit nicer. And then we have something chicken, and we have to contend with eating, right? So how are we going to do that? And the answer to this question is, well, let's look and see at least if we have some lexical material for eat. We do. Fayuli, which gives us the form hel. That's interesting. Lenethailef is an interesting language. So do not look at do not watch chickens eat. How are we going to take this this embedded clause into how are we going to embed it? We could do something like do not watch the eating of chickens. And of course that's ambiguous in English when we say it like that. Do you mean do not watch it when chickens eat other things, or do you do not watch when other things eat chicken? Let's look at this nominalized strategy. And let's see what it comes out as. So fayuli chakwa halik. I like that. So then we can make it like chicken genitive, eat, nominalize. So do not watch the chickens eating. Chicken apostrophe S. Chicken S apostrophe, I guess, in English. Genitive plural, right? So fortunately, the genitive in Lenethailef is identical to the nominative. It's just zero marked. And then we get halik, which needs me to type a character that Windows does not know much about typing. So let me find it written somewhere in our sheet. Goodness gracious. Here we go. So then we have do not watch chickens eat. Move one rock voerig halik. Excuse me. Move one rock voerig halik. Now, out of curiosity, how would we say do not watch Do not watch the eating of chickens. Do not watch chickens being eaten. That is another question. We talked about, at one point in Lenethailef, differences between different types of possession. So we have this, we have genitives that look like nominatives, and then we have a more explicitly marked genitive. I don't remember the context behind this, but I remember us talking about it. So I'm just going to try and find it to see if we ever made any progress on that. Ah, here we go. So I don't know if anyone remembers this, but Galactic Sand basically guessed it. We have this other form of possession that uses the dative. So we have huaskmanth and huaskanammanth. So we have the genitive possession and the dative of possession. And I think we could take advantage of this distinction to get at the subjective versus objective genitive. Like, well, okay, too many terms. You know, in English, if you say "don't watch the eating of the chickens," is the chicken the subject or the object? So in Lenethailef, we can use the genitive marker, one case, to express one meaning, and the dative marker to express another, because we already have this concept in the language that there are two types of possession, one marked with genitive, one marked with dative. Dative case, so in this context, it's just the name of one of the forms of the noun, but specifically, so here is an example, the noun wan, meaning I, we have the dative form wanenum. Dative is is typically the name given to the case that is used to mark the recipient of verbs like to give. So if you say, I give the bottle to my friend, if the language marks my friend with a specific case marker, then that's probably going to be called dative. So in this case, dative has more uses than just the recipient of those kinds of verbs like to give or send, these ditransitive verbs. In this case, it's used for a certain type of possession. Now, we could talk about what kind of possession, what the distinction between huaskmanth, Lake of the Crow, and huaskanammanth, off screen, Lake to the Crow. We can talk about what this distinction is. Is it alienable possession versus inalienable possession? That's a distinction that often comes up. Is it what would be a good one? Is it something to do with the animacy of the possessor? I don't know. We can discuss. But let's finish this. Let's finish this sentence before we move on too far. So we have, do not watch others eating chickens. The question is, which one do we want? Which one do we want to be which? I actually think that the genitive should be used for others eating chickens, and the dative for chickens eating. I don't know why. There's just a bit of an instinct that suggests that if we have the dative marker, it's less connected to the action. I'm going to be very technical and highfalutin here, but the dative possessor seems to me to be less connected to the action. The genitive possessor here, I don't know why. It's not scientific. It's just a gut feeling. So let's take chicken and put it into the dative case, which is not an easy task in Lenethailef. There's always some kind of complication because the sound changes are so elaborate. But we have, nope, that was a failure of epic proportions. Pukwakwa, or pukwakwa, the word for chicken. And then we need to figure out what the dative nama. Okay. Pukwaquanama. Fararanam. Fararanam. Oh my goodness. I've neglected the chat for a few minutes and there are so many good ideas in here. Whoops. All right. So let's do fararanam. So this is these are our two sentences. Muf wun rok fararanam halik. Do not watch chickens eat. And muf wun rok furach halik. Do not watch others eating chickens. Cool. And I remember the whole point of this was to show you the difference between Lenethailef style and Justamija style sentences. We went down some rabbit holes. So I think I'll put a cut in here for YouTube. And then we'll continue in just a moment. So YouTube, thanks for joining us. We had fun. We seem to be kind of chicken themed in this con world. I'm okay with it. Well, so come back if you want to see more chicken related proverbs and things. We're going to be continuing developing these languages as we go. So yeah, check back when you have a moment and you'll probably see some more. Okay. This is good. I saw something. Okay, so lots of stuff in the comments in the chat. I'm going to address them. I want to do it on screen so that YouTube can see. So I'll just quickly intro YouTube back in and then we'll go. So YouTube, welcome back. Long time no see. We are about to go back into our playing around with Lenethailef grammar and seeing if maybe Justamija might have had some influence on it in some spots. So that's what we're going to do. We are talking about chickens as well, naturally. So let's scoot over back to the side webcam and let's just reorient ourselves. So we have a sentence with some perfectly respectable Lenethailef grammar. Do not watch chickens eat. Move wun rok fararanam halik. And we are going to then play with it to make it look a little more what would we say? A little more SOV. Although I think to give ourselves the proper SVO credit, why don't we take this objective dative form, we might call it, and put it after. Okay. Oh no, wait. Maybe that's the opposite. That's the subjective dative. No, let's just keep it. Forget about that. I like it the way it is. All right. So what we need to do is make a more SOVE version of these. Before we do that, I'm just going to, what's the opposite of neglect? Pay attention to the chat. So the Moontoother asked, is chicken a strong enough word not to become regular through analogy? This is something that's been on my mind a lot. So Lenethailef has these very, very elaborate declension classes which have all sorts of ablaut. And they're quite chaotic. It's very hard to predict what the form of a noun or a verb will be in any given case. At least for me, I have to go and run everything through Lexergy every time. And I think that what we want to do is have fewer and fewer nouns act like this as the history of Lenethailef goes on. And so I'd like to start carving out some islands of regularity, start to winnow down these patterns. And so Lenethailef is not so chaotic. that's kind of the plan that I want to do actually a little bit today. So that's, yeah. So yeah, same wavelength. Max asks a random question. What's the Lenethailef cognate for Justamija mistak? That's a good question. So let's take a look. We have, where is mistak? It is musatachaqua. Musatachaqua. So let's put it into this sound change applier of Lexergy, and we can see it's mastok. That's kind of cool. Mastok. And what is the meaning of this? Friend. So mastok. Friend. Maybe we can make a what's it called? A proverb with that. Proverbs are so much fun. Okay. So let's take one of these. Okay, so now what I want to do is make a third sentence. Insert me some rows. Here's the question we have to ask. How do you say this? Do not watch chickens eating chickens. So logically, I think it would be something like, this is genitive, this is dative. So this chicken is chicken 1, this chicken is chicken 2. I would like one of these to go after the verb. And to me, the one that feels like it should go after the verb is anam, is the dative. This is what I was wondering about before, but then I thought better of it. But now I'm maybe thinking better of it. Actually, this is. I maybe think this could be backwards. Maybe the anam is the subject. So do not watch, oh sorry, the anam is the object. So do not watch others eating chickens, and this is do not watch chickens eat. Especially because this furach can be mistaken for a nominative, because genitive and nominative fell together in Lenethailef. I have an idea. I'm gonna go full screen while I ponder this. I think that we just need to. There we go. Okay, I've got it. So we just need to get ourselves completely motivated. And I think this will do it. So do not watch chickens eat. And now you know why. You don't want this guy looking at you, asking questions. What's he doing? What are they doing? They're watching us. watching us eat, and they're watching us being eaten. They're up to something. I want to forestall the inevitable human-chicken war. Or at least the author of this proverb did. I don't know who came up with it. So, what's the point of all of this? The point is, I think that the genitive should mark the subject of these embedded clauses. Do not watch chickens eating, because it's also the nominative. Move over. There we go. Whereas the dative can mark the object. And we could put it after, because it's SOV. So then we have Move wen rok geluk verranem. Move wen rok voerig geluk. And then, to top it all off, we would have Move wen rok voerig geluk verranem. Do not watch chickens. Chickens 1, eating chickens 2. And I think that's decent. Okay. Okay, so now that we have that, let's make a more highfalutin Justamija influenced version. I like this word mistok. All right. All right. Okay. Focus. Colin, focus. So this is our sort of test case. So to make this more SOVE, we should do something like this. Take the embedded clause and put it first. That's our first step. So voerig geluk verranem. Oh no. And then we have move one move one rock. And that is do not look. So this is Lenethailef with, we're gradually making it more SOV. And in that case, when rock is kind of the object of move. So hate looking at what? And then we need to turn this into SOV. So something like this. Voerig verranem geluk wen rok move. Versus move wen rok voerig geluk verranem. And that's kind of cool. And maybe what would also happen, because Justamija, if we have something where, okay, questions coming in about plurality. So there is no number distinction in any of the Qal languages so far, I believe. I could be wrong. We may have put it in Justamija, I don't remember. But there isn't any in Lenethailef. I think Colonel Sanders is definitely a Lenethailef speaker. There's no, either that or he's a worshipper of me. Maybe he is the true author of that poem. Could be, could be. Okay, so good. One thing I wanted to point out was that Justamija distinguishes genitive and nominative, but Lenethailef does not. So let's so if you think about a speaker of Lenethailef who has learned Justamija and has learned that this is the sort of the prestigious language that all languages should aspire to be like, and your language does not have a distinction between the genitive and the nominative case, you might want to innovate one to make your language more like Justamija. So let's take a look at Justamija grammar. Okay, I said that. I said that, but actually I don't think it does have a distinction. Oh, that's a shame. I was getting all geared up to introduce one. Well, maybe. Okay, well, hey, we're making this up, right? So let's introduce one in Justamija. What could a genitive case marker come from? Bring this up a little bit in font size. Yeah, it's a shame. I thought we had a distinction. Let's introduce one. Well, we can worry about the grammaticalization in a little bit. Why don't we just introduce the form? And maybe what we could do is we could introduce it like Justamija or Mistakia. Something like that. So we have an innovative genitive, which is ya or iya. And then, yeah, maybe Max, it's coming from something like inside. We can sort of back form that one. What's the word? Retcon, that one. Excellent. So we have this ya, iya suffix. So maybe what gets borrowed is furegia or ya. So there's this innovative genitive. And maybe this is optional in Lenethailef. And so we get this explicit genitive marker in the high register version of Lenethailef. So the differences so far we've got between the two are that high register Lenethailef has this explicit genitive marker, and it has the word order of Justamija, this pretty intense SOV order. Okay. I think that's decent. That's a decent. That's a decent place to leave that question. We're not going to finish the episode yet, though. Yes, and so maybe we've got something like what to do. Oh yeah, we do have some pluralization in Justamija, the CV reduplication. I don't know if we kept that or if this is an old note. You see, what needs to be done by me is to sit down and spend some time going through all of these, all this documentation, and fixing all of these things that are left. What's the relevance of this? Is this codified anywhere? I don't know. So yeah, some work has to be done. But that's for me to do, and for me alone. I don't think you want to see me going through and like laboriously cleaning things up. So why don't we turn our attention now to to the things that are annoying about Lenethailef so far. We'll list them, and then we'll break the episode, and then we'll solve them. Okay, so my pet peeves about Lenethailef. I don't love. So let's just get some space here. You see, this is how things get disorganized. I just say, let's make some space here. So pet peeves about Lenethailef. Number one, excessively chaotic inflectional system. I think we've got to bring that, I don't know, we've got to rein that in. 2. I don't love the voiced velar fricative showing up so much. In fact, I don't. The velar fricatives are, I think, a little bit overweighted in this language, and I think that we might want to get rid of a few for cellular purposes. So ch and r are allophonic. Ch is the elsewhere case, r in between vowels or in between voiced segments. So there's too much of both of them, frankly, in my mind. Also, too much front-rounded vowelness. I like the front-rounded vowels. I want to keep them, but they show up too much, and I don't know. I could do with it toning itself a little bit down. So those are the 3 things that occur to me. I like the language in general. We're looking at Justamija here. I don't know why. So looking around, you can see what I mean when I say chaotic. Look at these noun declensions. Forget about the verbs for a second. Look at these noun declensions. We have huask, huaskuich, huaskanum, huaskof, huaskaiven, huazeref, huazerem. I think that we could probably. There's too much. There's too much. There's too much. There's too much. And there's just too much everything. So I think what we need to do is come up with a declension that is going to be the regular declension. And every word and words are just gradually over time going to migrate into this declension. And maybe this declension won't ablaut. We have this rather extreme ablaut pattern going on. So huask, husk, huazera, 3 stems of the same, or 3 grades of the same root. Astaima, ustum, and ustamo. Qual, quel, qual. Faya, faya. Month, month, montho. Heth, huth, hathu. Timon, tumen, tamena. So I think we need a class that's not like that. So a borrowed word. We had a borrowed word earlier. What was that? I think this lunuk is this blessing. That's borrowed. Where'd it go? There we go. So, or me. The goddess me. What's gonna happen there? So we have me. Let's get this a bit bigger so we can see. Me. And then mich. Minem. Mif. Miven. Mif. Meme. That could be something. Where we basically have these case endings finding their way. So we have this euch, ich, euch, ich. Clearly the thing in common between them is something front followed by similarly we have anum, enum, enum, onum, unum, enum. So the num is the vowel and then num. So if we are, an acquirer of Lenethailef, and we're trying to find what's the common denominator here, what makes a dative, it's clearly v num. And since we already have a vowel here, me, num makes sense as the case ending. And so essentially what we're doing is we're sort of factoring out all the things that change amongst the declensions and coming up with the form that just represents that case ending. That just represents the case ending. And so similarly here with fun, f, m. So we get this. This is the non-ablating class. For loanwords, and eventually more and more native words will come into it too. So we might have faya, swan, become faya, fayach, fayanum, fayaf, fayavan, fayaf, fayam. Moontruther, yeah. What about a word that ends with a consonant? In that case, we may have to innovate from this stem. Maybe in general we innovate from the orange stem. So montho. So we go month and then monthoch, monthonum, monthof, monthoven. I don't know. Or maybe we combine the two so we get mantho. Or maybe we have an epenthetic vowel. Yeah. Comitative and similative are actually already merging for many of the declensions, such as the ya stem has a stemoph for both. The o stem has menthof for both. The u stem has hathuf for both. So yeah, we already have this syncretism happening in the language. So the door is open to it. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe like an epenthetic vowel might be the easiest way. So we might just have a schwa show up. So month, monthach, monthanum, monthaf, monthavan, monthaf, montham. And that sounds kind of cool. So this is not a loan word. This is an inherited word that used to ablaut month, month, montho. But maybe what happens is it goes monthach, monthanum, monthaf, monthavan, monthaf, montham. And actually that sounds kind of nice. Month, monthach, monthanum, monthaf, monthavan, monthav, montham. And then, yeah, similative and comitative would just merge into something. I don't know what we'd call it. We'd have to come up with some sort of some name that encompasses both or is general enough to encompass both. So I think this could be our strategy. And I kind of like this monthanum, monthavan. Yeah. Galactic said we are witnessing the evolution of Lenethailef. So gradually over time, more and more nouns are going to jump into this general declension. And the ones that are left ablouting will become fewer and fewer. Just like the ones in English which are umlauting, like man, men, become fewer and fewer, foot, feet. And eventually they become just a few isolated irregularities. Especially when we look at the history of Lenethailef, we have basically two phases. We have early Lenethailef, which is heavily influenced by Justamija as a literary language, and then we have late Lenethailef, in which it's influenced by Kranz-Lor, this heavily isolating language, and a Creole forms. And so this regularized Lenethailef. This could be a high register version that is spoken in the same society as the Creole, which would have none of these endings, likely. And so, yeah, we got early modern Lenethailef essentially. Oh, it's exciting. Okay, so that's the gist. That's the plan. Why don't we take a quick break? Let YouTube people stretch their legs, get their drinks, hydrate, stretch, all that good jazz, and then we'll keep going. So YouTube, thanks again. I feel like we're making some good progress here. Come back, see what happens with early modern Lenethailef and contemporary Lenethailef and old Lenethailef. We're going to have all sorts of periods. It's going to be fun. So come back soon and we will see you then. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to take a quick break. I will be back in a minute and then we will get started. So I will put on the thing. Okay, as promised, right back. Okay, so then why don't we outline 2 stages then of Lenethailef and start to translate some of our sentences that we've worked on so far, maybe even our little chicken proverb, into various forms. So we've already got it in one form, which is the heavily Justamija influenced version of Lenethailef. Then we've got the sort of middle of the road Lenethailef, and then we can play with it from there. So essentially what we're doing is we're doing 2 things. I should just say hi to YouTube first. Hi YouTube, welcome. We're about to work on Lenethailef again. What we're going to do is we're going to basically make Lenethailef into a language that has all sorts of different registers and historical phases. And what we're going to do at the same time is clear up some of the things that have been kind of bothering me about the vibe of Lenethailef, and in the process make it into the perfect cellar door aesthetic language. So let's go. Let's do it. Okay, so let's define some terms, shall we? What is this? What is going on here? Okay, so this we don't need. So we have old Lenethailef. We can have middle Lenethailef. And we can have, at the same time, something like, we're going to have better names for this eventually, but like high middle Lenethailef, which could be our Justamija influenced version. And then we have, I'm just going to steal the terms from the history of English because it makes me laugh. Early modern Lenethailef. I don't know. How do I get this all working? And then on the side of this, so this is going to be more, so this is going to be less prestige, and this is going to be more prestige here. Old Lenethailef, relatively undifferentiated in terms of the high and low prestige varieties. Middle Lenethailef has this Justamija influenced version, which is more prestigious, and then colloquial Middle Lenethailef is the thing that's rounding out the rest of the continuum. Early Modern Lenethailef, actually, we have Kranslor spoken in the so put this like this. We have Kranslor spoken as the high status language, and we have the Creole spoken as the low status language, and then we have presumably something like this is what I'm thinking. So maybe this is better. So Justamija is the high prestige language here. High Middle Lenethailef is the sort of middle prestige language. And then we could call this low Middle Lenethailef. I don't know. Just a name. We'll come with better names for this. So in the old period, we have everything, not a huge amount of diglossia to get the term out there. Whereas in this middle period, we have Justamija being spoken as the literary language, or being used as the literary language. We have the Justamija influenced version of Lenethailef being used in these sort of less formal contexts, but still maybe, I don't know, not everyday speech between friends, which would be the province of low Middle Lenethailef. Then in the early modern period, the Lenethailef Kranslor Creole gets spoken as the sort of colloquial vernacular. Early modern Lenethailef is kind of in the middle, and Kranslor is spoken as the high prestige language, or is used. And then Kranslor stops being used in the late modern period, but otherwise the situation remains unchanged. So that's the gist. So what's going on here? This is diglossia, or in some cases triglossia, where we have different languages or varieties of the language used by the same people in different social circumstances. So over here on the more side, we might have formal writing, government documents, etc. Maybe informal writing, public speech, and casual speech. Something like this could be the way that we slice the pie. Of course, maybe in each period it's slightly different what falls into what bucket, but this is the situation that we're looking at. So if this is the case, then let's, we already have our little timeline here. Why don't we make use of it? So let's push this over. So maybe we can push protocol 3 a little bit back. Maybe like this, so that we can have some time, a little time for old Lenethailef. And then we have Middle Lenethailef, like this. And then we have early modern Lenethailef and Kranslor for about 200 years. and then Lenethailef, modern Lenethailef here, and the Creole. So the Creole is actually going to be spoken here too. There we go. So that's roughly the situation. I think we might need a little bit more time for early modern Lenethailef. Well, we have 400 years of middle, 300 of old, 200 of early modern. It's a very rapidly changing period, so that's fine. And then 300 of modern Lenethailef. Yeah, well, you know, I'm satisfied with that. That makes sense. Old Lenethailef might need a few more 100 years. And so what we've been describing is, of course, there are some sort of mystery years in here, why don't we say, where all sorts of stuff has been happening. I think we need to, so these are the transitional forms between Protocol 3 and Lenethailef. And then by the time we get old Lenethailef written in around 1100 before the present, then it looks like this. It looks like what we've been working on. So month, manthoich, manthonum, etc., etc. Okay. Middle Lenethailef is going to be, so let's start placing our changes. So we have old Lenethailef, which is basically as described. As originally described in this spreadsheet. Then we have low, middle Lenethailef, high, middle Lenethailef, influenced by Justamija, SOV tendencies. Iya genitive. Widespread borrowing from Justamija. Question from Echoed Words. Yeah, Lenethailef is a call language. It descends from Protocol, just like Justamija does. It's from this branch 3 that we haven't named yet. So there's a sister language, which we call branch 3A, which we don't know very much about yet. We'll have to come back to it. There's an in-universe call. He's, you know, hey everyone, would you like to learn the beautiful and mysterious language of Old Lenethailef? Well, I have just the course for you. Yep, I can see it. All right. Low, middle Lenethailef. So what is going on here? We have utilization of nouns and verbs begins. So this is also going to be the case in high, middle Lenethailef as well. And then we have early modern Lenethailef and modern Lenethailef, which we don't know very much about yet because we have to work on the context stuff. What else? Oh yeah, so we are going to have some sound changes as well. Let's just say extensive regularization of nouns and verbs. Sound changes, so we're going to be removing, well, we're going to be playing at least with ch, front rounded vowels. What else did we say? Where's the pet peeves? Yeah, that's all. Okay. Echoed Words asks, are there going to be any languages branching off from Lenethailef as they evolve? That's entirely possible. I haven't thought about that yet, but basically the way we're doing it in Lexergy, we can essentially just say stop at any point and use that as the basis for another language. So as we do more of the world building, I think we'll be able to answer, or we'll be able to create these languages as we need. Yeah, so that's going to be an interesting and very long project, but that's what we're here for, right? Okay, so then what are our changes going to be? So I'm going to scroll up in the chat because I saw some great suggestions about what happens to ch. So yeah, maybe, so here are some possibilities. What's going to happen to ch, which is voiced, and it's voiced allophone? Maybe we get ch going to h, a familiar sound change. We could also get r just dropping out. I don't know if my fancy, let's just say 0. We could have some compensatory lengthening happening. So credit where credit is due. Echoed Words saying the velar fricatives could become h. Moontruth is saying that the voiced one could be easy to lose. And Galactic Sand is suggesting that maybe we could do a Mongolian and have them lengthen vowels. I like that idea. With compensatory lengthening. Another thing that occurred to me is we could have the sort of German situation happen where ch becomes palatal after a front vowel, which it does in all of the accusative cases. So where's my little, now where on earth is it? Got to get to my IPA keyboard here, and we have got to take the voiceless palatal fricative out. So ch to h after front vowels. Something like this. Now I've lost my view of you. There we are. And so we could have, where was an example? So susukeich. So susukeich will go to susukeich, which I think I've been doing already. And then what we could do is have this h become a y. And I'm thinking of something that happened in some varieties of Irish. So you have these, well, something like that anyway. You have nouns that end in ach that when they, in certain forms in Irish, that final sound becomes palatalized, and instead of becoming eich, it becomes something like e, because it's become a y. So the y, and I think that there's a bit more to say about that, but let's be fast and loose here, right? So y to y, and then we could have something like something like that. So susukeich would become susukei. And I think this would be relatively friendly to this would be relatively friendly to, what am I thinking? The Kranslor speakers, which I don't think are going to be too able to pronounce or if we can take a look at their phonology for a second. We have, it's this column here. Their language sounds like doskrit, hunzun, liap, liao, plit, siu. So they're okay with yod, but I don't think they're going to be too able to handle hya. And so this could work nicely with our modern stage of the language as well, which is going to be heavily influenced by Kranslor. Okay, right. So something like this. So then we would get susukei becoming pronounced like susukei. Susukei. And that could work. That could work. Okay. So this I kind of like. I think we could do this. So use this deletion of r with compensatory lengthening. So what would that look like? So basically, these would be our sound changes. So let's find a mith anagladas tamanei. So what would this turn into? So mith would be the same. Let me just get all the IPA. Mith anagladas. So this is schwa na. I'll write it out all as it is now, and then we'll do the change. Sorry, this is just going to take me a second. And where is my apologies for the dead air there? You never like to have dead air in professional radio, and you certainly don't like to have it here either. Okay, so something like this. Tamanech. All right, so there we go. So if we do this plan, we would turn into mith analadas tamanei, which presumably that would simplify. Mith analadas tamanei. Yeah, that could work. And what is this cross anagladas? So we should also look at ways that we might regularize these nouns and verbs. So mith can stay because that's nominative. Tamanech is this accusative form. Let's go back to our charts. So taiman is river. Tamanech is the accusative form. So if we were to make this into a regularized form, it would turn into taimanach. And so let's also change the morphology. So time. Oops. Okay. What have I done? How do I get it back? No. Okay. So let's make a version with the changed morphology. Timenoi. Timenoi. So instead of having this this ablauding timen tamenei, we have just timen timenei. I is the accusative form. And maybe I simplifies to E just for cellar door purposes. And if you don't know what I mean when I'm saying cellar door, this is a reference to the fact that Tolkien thought that cellar door was the most beautiful sequence of sounds in the English language. And it's just a pity that it didn't have as beautiful of a meaning. So then, okay, so that would turn into taimeni. Mith and agladas taimeni. And if we change our verb to be more regularized, call and figure out where everything is, challenge 2022, impossible, difficulty. So anagladas. What is that verb? Cross. I don't remember. Do we have it in our lexicon? Of course not, because I haven't kept up to date. Okay, so let's go back and we'll find cross. Oh, onaquila. Okay. That's what it is. So let's find out what the base form is. Anoch. Okay, that's good. That's going to give us some stuff to work with. So anoch. And what is it going to regularize as? So what do we have? We haven't filled out all of these incidentally, but we can at least give a start. Okay, anoch. So we know that these are vowel F. So something like an anorif. Then the same thing here, anoret. And here we have a bit of a difference because the schwa stem has no suffix, but all the others have T, so we can regularize to T. Similarly here, schwa stem has no suffix, but we can regularize to N. Here we have aish, aish, ish, ish. So here we can regularize to ush. Here we can regularize to uk. So essentially we're just having epenthetic schwa before the consonant that's shared in all of these endings. Here we have enores, enorek. So substantive and conditional two are merging, which already is occurring in most conjugations. Enoreves, enorevol, enoref, something like that. So this would be the regularized form. Let's get that a bit more centralized. So given this, what we have is anagladish, right? I think that's it. Let's go back. Anagladish. This is the conditional one of anoch. So back up, conditional one, anogadis. All right. So then back down, sorry. So we have ano, thus. And because we have this voice velar fricative, that's going to delete. And I think we can actually have a long vowel here, maybe. Ano this. rather than anoa this. Well, okay, let's not do that yet. That's what I want to do eventually. But instead we can have just a vowel schwa hiatus. Mith anoa this taimani. So this would be my idea for middle Lenethailef. So we've had a lot of regularization of nouns and verbs. We have these sound changes going on. And we would write it. I don't know how we would write it yet. We might write it the same. Or maybe we could, yeah, we'll worry about the romanization later. Let's just write it as if it's, as if we've made changes based on the, we don't have a conservative orthography. So mith anoa this taimani. Mith anoa this taimani. Mith anoa this taimani. Yeah, I dig that. That's kind of cool. All right, I'm proud of this. Why don't we play with this a little bit more? Let's finish the poem, which will now no longer rhyme. But this is middle Lenethailef. Okay, I've introduced a temporal paradox because this would only have been borrowed by someone who knew about the Ming people and the Ming language. And if we look at our... So this is written in Old Lenethailef, and it's a poem translated from Ming, which is much, much later. Okay, so how are we going to deal with this? Maybe someone has taken that in-universe Colin Gorey's course on Old Lenethailef and has translated a favorite poem from me into Old Lenethailef as a sort of student project. That's how we're going to get out of it. The dental fricatives are not going to last throughout creolization. I can assure you of that. But for now, they're an essential part of this language. Yeah, that's how they got their college credits, exactly. And whatever the in-universe version of the Nobel Prize is not far off for that translator. Okay, so let's finish off today by making the middle Lenethailef version of this poem. And we won't worry about the meter yet. Let's scoot these over to the right spots. So, mith anoa this taimani. And yeah, mith anoa this taimani. Actually, let's write this like so, EY, with this slightly older form of the reason is that we've been relying on the vowel. So if there's an E in a syllable, that syllable's unstressed. And so if we write I, then we don't know where the stress is. So, mith anoa this taimani. Okay, next sentence. Mi lunukeich kuschansuth. So this is going to become, so lunuk, let's say this is another regularized form because it's a loan word, I believe. And we have mi. Here we have a problem for our stress marking rule. Lunuk, two full vowels because it's a loan word. In this case, we will have to just mark it explicitly, I think. Let me do that. Mi lunuke kus han suth. All right. Vorig aluth halish. Fuach. You know, I kind of like ch staying around alongside broad vowels. So fuach aluth halish. And then another line. Susuke nafish sefmath. So the question is, does this still rhyme? So mith anoathus taimene. Mith anoathus taimene. Mi lunuke. No, it doesn't. Oh yeah, well it does. Mi lunuke kuschansuth. Fuach aluth halish susuke nafish sefmath. I think we're still fine. I think the only problem is that math no longer rhymes with anoath. But that could be an I rhyme. Oh wow. Okay. Yes, I know. How dare we make math into pain? I don't know who can we blame for that? Certainly not me. I love math. And I just have something really cool. Moontruther suggests this awesome idea, which is that the dental fricatives, because they are so articulatorily difficult, at least, well, we can say they're marked, right? They are not common. They are late to acquire and acquisition. They are, yeah, well, those two things are probably enough. They may become a marker. If you can do them, it may become a marker of some sort of social fact. Who knows? Yeah, so then in modern Lenethailef, we might have some words that come from the versions that lost these dental fricatives and some that did not. And so things are going to get mixed up. I think we have the opportunity to make something really, 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 really cool and naturalistic with Lenethailef. But yeah, in Universe Kalangori is now canon. He lives around I don't know exactly where he lives, but he lives in the present. So he's active year zero before the present. This is the realm of in-universe Kalangori. He loves teaching Old Lenethailef. This is, how he spends his days, and he's a very sought-after instructor. And in fact, one of his students is the famous translator of the Mean Chicken poem, If You Cross the River. So, quite the career he's had. I will say that. In-universe Kalangori does eventually teach poetry, although his technique is more to build you up to it, because poetry in Old Lenethailef, poetry is very, very tough. I don't know if you know this, but the way that the poetic form works, and this is just a little aside, is that you rhyme so each line has 3 feet, which are right-headed. So mith an agladas tamaneich, mi lunukeich kuschan suth, fure geluth gelish, susukeich nafish sef math. Right? So da 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 da. So it doesn't matter how many unstressed syllables are in between, as long as you have these stressed syllables on the right of your feet. So that's the first part of the rule of Old Lenethailef poetry. And the second part is you need to rhyme the end of your line with the second foot in the next line. So, mith yn agladdus tameneich, mi lunukeich, kusgan suth, furig a luth helish, susukeich nefish, sef math. And by the way, the last line goes back and rhymes with the second foot of the first line. So, math and aglath. So, yeah, this is not something that you want to give to someone on day one of an Old Lenethailef course. But it is kind of cool. And, you know, you can end up doing really cool things with it, especially if you have some great source material, as the chicken poem is. Okay. All right. Well, I think we're about at our time today. So I'm going to come back here and thank YouTube for joining us. This has been a lot of fun. I think we've made a lot of good decisions about Lenethailef, about the relationship between Lenethailef and Justamija, and I think we're on the road to making Lenethailef like an extremely naturalistic language with all sorts of intricate historical, complications and intricacies. And did I say intricate intricacies? I hope not. I probably did. Well, nevertheless, it's the end of the stream, so we can get away with that. So YouTube, come back soon and you'll see a lot more of this kind of thing. Until then. Okay. Chat. My goodness. This has been fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm very excited to get moving with more of this project. There's only so many, unfortunately, only so many hours in a day, and I want to do most of it on stream with you. So we move a little slowly, but we get the job done. I will have to do some cleanup at some point whenever I can book in some time to do that. But this is a very long-term project, and I'm very glad that you're here with me and with us, with Lucy, our intrepid producer, to experience it all. It's really a joy. For those who weren't here at the start, if you are the type of person who would take an Old Lenethailef course, you might also be the type of person to take an Old English course. And if so, you can take advantage of #OldEnglishSummer. Yes, we're making it happen. We're making it happen with an 8-week Old English course this summer, which I will be teaching. There should be a link in the description to this stream, so check that out if that seems like your kind of thing. It tends to be the kind of thing that if it's your kind of thing, you know it instantly, and if not, well, you know that instantly as well. Okay, cool. So we will be back this Thursday, right? This Thursday. And I have it on good authority we're going to be doing something new on Thursday. So you may want to check it out. It may involve an owl. That's all I'll say. All right. So thank you again. We will see you soon. We will see you in the comments. We'll see you on Discord. We'll see you in the chat on Thursday. And so until then, stay hydrated and stretch. Until next time.